everyone, I am Piyush and this is the solution for Intigriti's January XSS Challenge 2022. Firstly, thanks to Integrity and the Rule Bureau for this amazing challenge. So, without further wasting time, let's start solving the challenge. Here, we need to find a way to execute arbitrary JavaScript on the iframe page. So as you can see, here is an iframe page on which we have to execute JavaScript. So let's inspect this iframe and open this page in a new tab. So here is a super secure HTML viewer on which we have to execute arbitrary XSS. So let's try our basic XSS builder first. Okay, so we see that our image has been loaded but no pop-up has been came out. And we can also see that the URLs also has changed. So you can see here that we have our image tag with the source but no on error alert. So it's look like something is sanitizing this. Our on error alert has been stripped off. So let's look at the source code and see what we get. So looking at the source code, you can see that this looks like a React web app. So in the React web app, you will also find an index.js file inside the JS directory. And by looking at it, you will indeed find out that this is a React file. Okay, so now you can see that there is an app called here. This is an app page which is being called out here. So we can see that here our app page is also calling the router page here, which in functions return router. So let's look at the router page. In this router page, you can see that there are two files being imported, and here you can see that those two files are being called out on the index path and the result path with their identifiers too. So here is our variable identifier which they are being called out here. So as you can see that these variable identifiers, you can see that this variable has a lot of base64 encoded values, which obviously we need to decode before moving any forward, because this will help us further down the road. So after decoding this value, it will look something like this. So you can decode these base64 values any way you like, from console, from your terminal, or from any online tool. So after decoding these two values, let's have a look at these two unique files. Inside the pages directory, you will find those two unique files. So looking at these two unique files, you will find that these two files are totally obfuscated, which we need to decode using those identifiers which we recently have decoded. So using these values, we have to deobfuscate our both files, both unique files, this one and this one. So I have already deobfuscated them, and after deobfuscating them, they will look something like this. So here are two files, IOX1 and IOX1C. Now if you have decoded the full page, then you will know that this value stands for result. IOX1I stands for the result and IOX1IC stands for our home page. So it means that this IOX1C is our home page, and our home page doesn't do anything special. This only does is what that it takes our input and then sends and navigate it to the slash result path. After that, the result function comes into the play. On the second line, you can see that it is the DOM purify is being imported. So it means that something is getting sanitized, and surely it is our input, as we have previously inserted an image tag which did get purified. So it looks like something is happening in this page or in this function. So let's have a look on in this page. So now let's see what's inside the function. The first line just takes our input from the URL, and next it checks if our payload is empty or not. If it is empty, it prints out nothing's here. And this is a function handle attribute, which we will have a look later. And so you can see here is our sanitize HTML object, and below that is our dangerously set inner HTML. So here you can see that our payload from URL is being sanitized with the HTML function. So now let's have a look that what this sanitize HTML is doing. Here you can see that it is sanitizing our payload on the first line. So after sanitizing our payload, it is creating an element named template. After creating a template element, it is setting its inner HTML to our payload. And after that, the template element is being added inside the body element. So after that, you can see that it is getting selected and passed on to the handle attribute function. And after that, the template function element is being removed and our payload is being returned here. So it looks like this template function is of no use other than this handle attribute function, because it is simply being created here, passed into the body, and then it is being removed from here. So it looks like that handle.attribute function might have something for us. So let's have a look inside that function. Now inside this function you can see that it is setting that our template.content value to this function, and after that it creates a child variable and sets its value to template.content.children, and after that it searches if there is a string data.debug in that child.attribute. Then it creates a new function with the value of that data.debug. If you notice this closely, that this is not a normal function, this is a capital F function. So now let's have a look at this function, that what is this and how it works. Now if you read this, you will get to know that this is not a normal function. Every JavaScript function is actually a function object. So this function is an object, you can say. And if you want to understand more about this, you can read this whole. It creates a new function object, you can see here. So if you want to know more about it, you can read this fully. But for now, let's go to the example and see that how this function works. So in simple words, if you see this, that this new function refers to the global variable, not the local variable. Now, if you understand properly, then you would have understand that we can use this function to achieve arbitrary XSS. How? You know that this access the global variables, and this is an object. So global object. So we can use like objects like windows, documents, use that to pop our alert. So now let's see that how this function helps us to achieve our XSS. Now we know that where we need to insert our payload and how all of these functions work together. So now let's start creating our payload and understand that how these all functions work. So firstly, as our payload comes from this sanitized HTML, it gets purified here, and after that it gets passed to its inner HTML template.innerHTML, and after that the handle dot contributes it gets passed, our payload gets passed in form of template.content to handle.attributes. So now after that, the handle.attribute functions take its children's object and pass it to the child. So we need, and after that, you can see here that it searches for data debug in that child attributes. So we need a tag. We can use any tag like an anchor tag, image tag, any tag which is not blocked by the DOM purify sanitizer. So for this example, I'm going to use an image tag. And as I have said that child dot attribute, so we need data dot debug string in that attribute. So if we add this, it will pass this function and it will say it's true, and it will create a new function using the value of data dot debug. So now let's create a data dot debug value. So we can set, as I have said, that it is a function, a global object. So we can use something like window dot alert, and let's pop our document dot domain dot domain. So this is our payload, and now let's see if this payload works or not. Okay, let's get to our challenge page, move this AST, and let's, okay, this colons, you can say. Now let's paste this and let's see if this works. Okay, and boom, we have got our document.domain alert. So now I hope you have understood this. And at last, I would like to say that actually the challenge was not that hard. As you can all see, that the payload was pretty easy and small. But surely this was a bit time consuming challenge. As first you need to deobfuscate all those pages and then dig deep into code to find this vulnerability. But whatever you do in this world, finding a bug or solving a challenge, it takes time. So thank you for watching and listening, and goodbye.